Okay. So I have an update. Well, not an update. I guess I'll say story time. And I wasn't going to do one today just because I wanted to do a little bit of research. But I'm going to pause for a minute and just go over what I kind of, how my morning's been. So I think yesterday's video, I was talking about how I get a lot of pushback from women. Not so much, I never get any pushback from men. Men are more like, I'll listen to whatever you have to say because men are out there kind of in the workforce, they're out there doing the hard labor and they don't need this HS interrupting their day. They're out there in the sweat. They're out there trying to provide for their family, And I'm not saying that women don't do it, because we do. But women tend to be more where you got to prove me wrong before I do what you tell me. And I'm not telling you what to do. But when I share information in these groups, what makes me mad is that these older women, they get on my posts and they want to break me down. But you ain't going to break me down from trying to help other women just because you're margada. Just because you want to live like this and you've accepted this life. You're not going to let other younger women who have the ability to turn their life around, to have a future and to have children and to get married and to become somebody and not to live in their bed alone and in pain. So this morning I talked to, or actually last night, I was up till 2, I think, talking to, because yesterday I was doing some research. I went to Whole Foods. I've never walked into Whole Foods. I've always been a Walmart and HEB kind of person. For those who don't know where I live in Texas. So there's a HEB and Walmart here. And so before that, before Whole Foods, that's where I went all my grocery shopping. And so then after I found out, my son had this skin disease, and then with all my research that I've done, I found out what the triggers were, gluten and dairy, I was like, all right, well, let's go, we're going to start living this whole gluten life, and it worked, in the beginning, like I was saying. Because I didn't know he was dairy sensitive. Never did I think my son was dairy sensitive because he's been eating dairy since he was a baby. And so when I started noticing that he had like this major improvement, but these very, very far and few leaks, I'm like, why is he still leaking a little bit? Why is there still a little bit of irritation? And that's when I started doing like the food blogging. I started looking at all the food blogging that I was doing. And I started connecting the dots. I'm like, oh, dang. I'm poisoning my son. I'm seeing the trend. The trend is cheese. Cheese, whether it be in some type of ingredient, whether it was cheese that I was putting on top of his eggs in the morning. It was freaking cheese. So I'm like, all right, let's go ahead and eliminate cheese. So I eliminated cheese and I eliminated gluten, which is wheat. And I said, damn, I saw my son getting healthier. He started, all his little holes that he had in his body started going away. And I was like, hallelujah, And then here I am still messing up because I get more seasonings. And I'm so focused on wheat that I forget. Damn it. Gluten. Dairy. So I'm over here calling my mom, calling my boyfriend, calling other people. Hey, I have free food. Come and get it because I just messed up and I bought food that has freaking dairy in it. I didn't even know. And, let me see what I'm, Maria. I need a good dairy-free cheese. The one I bought tastes gross. Sorry. Yeah, it's going to be trial and error. Trust me. We found some at Whole Foods, and that's where I'm gonna get to. And the Whole Foods tasted really good. So it's a new way of life, but it's like bread. I bought a whole bunch of different kinds of breads, and we were like, okay, this bread's more like cornbread, so we'll probably eat this with chili. We bought another bread. I was like, okay, this bread's not good with sandwiches. It crumbles up too quick. It's very dry, so I'm gonna make that for toast. and then you find your other breads. It's gonna be a learning process. So I'm sorry, but so it was I lost my train of thought already. Sorry, and so it's a learning process. Because you're learning how your body reacts to food. So last night I stayed up with a young lady. She's a dispatcher, and she has a HS on her face. And with my son, I was able to hide his HS. I was able to hide his boils, his open sores, his tunnels. I was able to hide it. But when it's on your face, you can't hide it. Right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. So a lot of these individuals get to wear the face mask and hide some of the stuff that's there. But then what do you do when you take off that mask, And then you have to show your face. And so her areas are all here, and she has some here. And they're open. So yesterday when I was shopping and, looking for stuff for people, because individuals who have HS, they don't realize it, but the reason why they're super, super tired is because they are sick. At first, I thought my son was just growing up and being lazy. And I knew he had HS. No doubt about it. But I thought, okay, well, he can't be that. He can't hurt that much. But when I entered these groups and I saw the impacts of how this HS disease looks over time, I said, man, I take back every thought I ever thought about my son being lazy, because he wasn't lazy. It was just this disease freaking kills you. Can you hear him in the background? He's over there happy, all playing games. Anyways. And, sorry. So we exchanged some conversations last night and we went over what she ate. And, I figured it out. I'm like, yeah, you ate a lot of gluten, and this is why your face is the way it is. And the cheese, we went over her dairy. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, I knew, in the back of my head, I knew that I was sensitive to dairy. She goes, but I still ate it because, some days I had good days and some days I had bad days. And I'm like, oh. But you know what? I'm not going to lie, because I don't have HS. But since I started doing this whole gluten-free process and dairy-free with my son, I'm on that little bandwagon too. And I didn't realize it, but I ran out of creamer, like the dairy-free creamer. So I went back to my regular creamer. As soon as I went back to my regular creamer, I ended up getting a bunch of little dots on the back of my ear. And I'm like, they were like little pus balls. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, I've had these before. And I thought that it was just like a heat rash. I thought I was just sweating. And no, it's a reaction to gluten. It's a reaction to dairy. Well, mine was a reaction to dairy. And I was like, damn, that was for me, it's a sensitive hit, but it was still a hit, something that I never experienced or even connected them together, because I never looked at stuff like that before. And so then, so last night when I talked to her, she's like, I'm going to go ahead and do what you said. I'm going to go gluten-free and I'm going to go with dairy-free. And with everybody that I talk to, I give them a bunch of suggestions. Like, this is what, I found. This is where it's at. If you have a store similar to it, I'm pretty sure they have it there. You just have to look. And a lot of times we don't know they're even there because we've never looked. I never looked for any of this food before. So it's probably been there the entire time, but I've just never looked because I never had to look for it before. So anyways. So I found ice cream yesterday at Whole Foods. I found sour cream at Whole Foods. I found cream cheese at Whole Foods, which is dairy-free, gluten-free products. And I was like, damn, that's awesome. And I thought I was expecting, like I said, I've never shopped at Whole Foods. And I was driving there with my boyfriend, and I'm like, I'm already thinking, man, I do not want to be like these bougie people, you know, all up in this store. And I was already mad at myself. Like, I was already talking some smack, you know, because I'm a